Welcome to the Bound for Glory podcast. In this episode, we're talking to someone I just met, Jesi Bentele. She's a triathlon athlete who will be competing in the World Triathlon Championship later this year. It's an amazing conversation about being an athlete, being strong, pursuing excellence, both physically, mentally, spiritually, and what that can do in your life. It's a great conversation you're not going to want to miss. Jesi.
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm saying your last name right too. Bentele?
Bentele.
Is that Italian?
Bentele. No, it's German.
It looks Italian though. But it's German.
I married into that one.
Okay. German though. Schmidt's very German. So we're good.
We get it.
Welcome to the BFG podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You've watched a few of the episodes?
I have.
So do you know the startup questions we always
thought about this on the way here.
Okay, then good. You're sometimes people, I catch them off guard, and I could tell they want to share a story, but they haven't had time to think about it, and they're a little nervous, and so they don't. So this is just a fun question. I've been doing this for years. It's an anecdotal study. I just think it's interesting because people often answer, when we did the commercial at your place, to interview the one lady, I asked her that to get her break the ice. And she had a very interesting answer. And her daughter was behind her, and her daughter had no idea. And she was like, what?
Freaked her out a little bit.
It was like, I caused this family moment to happen that I didn't even mean to. So question number one. They probably
went home and talked about it too.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. She said, we're going to talk about this at home. Have you ever seen a UFO?
I have not.
What are your thoughts on the UFO phenomenon?
I think, do they exist?
Mm-hmm.
I am not sure. I don't know. Now, I'm not 100% like, they exist.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm that one that's like on the fence, like, maybe.
Well, you've never seen one, but do you know somebody that has told you they've seen one?
No.
Okay.
I've never met anyone who's been like, this is what happened,
Mm-hmm.
or, spotlight, this and that.
But you've seen videos on Twitter or whatever. Like you think it might be a thing, but you just don't have any personal reference.
I'm a 100% believer in like supernatural, like good and evil.
That's the second question.
Yeah, I know. I had to skip to it. So I'm like, I don't know anything about UFOs.
That's funny because people usually break down, in my worldview, they're either UFO people or they're ghost people.
Yeah.
It's funny because there'll be people that will be like, UFOs, that is ridiculous. And then I say, have you ever seen a ghost? And they're like, absolutely, I've seen ghosts. It's like, you're like, how is the UFO so strange, but the ghost? Okay, so you do believe in ghosts.
Maybe not ghosts, but like, I think spiritual, like good and evil, spiritual warfare. I think angels and demons exist. I think they present themselves in different ways in the universe and day-to-day life.
I did a podcast about ghosts and did a bunch of research on it, but that's maybe an American, like modern take on ghosts. Like when you say ghost, you think Ghostbuster. Mm-hmm. But technically, if you go back, it's just the German word for spirit is Geist. In English is like a Latin German mishmash. So when you say ghost, we think Ghostbusters, but it really is the same as saying spirit.
Yeah.
So
if you were to put those together like that, then yes.
Have you seen something like an apparition or like something that people would call a ghost, but you'd say it's a spirit, or had an experience that you were like, it was for bad or good? Not. I think
I've had a bad experience and I've had a good experience. I think the good experience, one time I was feeling a little uneasy, and this was when I was like a young kid. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what age I was. I was young. I was by myself in like this room, and I just had this like uneasy feeling, and I was like, I don't feel so good. Like this kind of feels weird. And then all of a sudden, I swear I heard someone say Jesi, and it was just this calming, like good presence. And I was like, oh, okay, I can get with this. This is fine. And it just was this weird thing that I never forgot. And I was like, oh, somebody nice was in the room with me. I don't know. And then I've had another bad experience just 2 weeks ago. This is a perfect one. And I think a lot of women will relate to this, whether they're athletes or not. I wanted to go for a run. I had a really busy day. It was like a Friday morning. And so I told my husband, I said, hey, you're going to watch the kids in the morning. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a run. I get out of bed 5 a.m. I am dressed, ready to go, get my keys. I'm about to walk down to the car and head to the track. And I just had this immediate, like, stop, don't go. This is not safe. You don't need to go anywhere. And I put my keys down and I went back to bed. I was like, nope, not today. And I haven't done that ever, I think. It was like the weirdest thing. I just felt
deep
like
down
it wasn't
inside,
safe.
you had this feeling like, it's almost like your body is telling you don't do this and you can't explain why.
Yeah, I just had this gut feeling. I was like, I think a lot of females get that too when you go to work out and you know you're going to be by yourself. And, you know, I looked outside and it was super dark and I was like, I thought maybe the sun maybe be up a little higher by now. And I'm just thinking, I'm going to be out there by myself. I don't know if this is like the right situation to be in. And I just had this gut feeling and I was like, I don't know. I just don't feel like that's for me today.
There's a lot of, like in the military, they talk about, and I didn't serve in the military, but I've researched it quite a bit. And like, there's guys that'll tell you that there are guys in combat situations that they like to have them in the front because they seem to have like an intuition about danger. And they're the guys that'll go through a war and everyone else gets shot, but they don't. You know, they're the guys that they'll just know, like, don't go around that corner. I know there's something wrong. And even the military, they like look for those people with those traits because they know it's a thing.
I really feel like it's like a, not to be too feminist, but like a woman's intuition, a mother's intuition. Like, I feel like we look for danger around all the corners. I think some men are like that too. But I think for the most part, I feel like women are always looking at dangerous situations because we always find ourselves as,
you always had to,
as like not as strong as men and things. So we always kind of sometimes get taken advantage of and can get hurt easier or things like that. So,
well, if you go back in time where it's like the man had to leave and go hunt or whatever for a long time, not only did the women have to, take care of themselves a lot, but also the kids. Like you had all of this, like you're on high alert all the time.
Our brains
because,
are like,
you had to be. And it gets baked into your,
like your DNA.
Genes and everything. And then now and then eventually
all the time.
You have Jesse gets like super spidey senses and, knows what's going on. Well, that's awesome. I think.
So yeah, good and evil.
I agree with that 100%. I think, there's good and bad, and it's just the idea that spirit is just a non-physical consciousness of some kind. I think too. I think I don't pretend like we understand I don't think we understand what's going on at all, to be honest.
No,
I think we're on a need to know basis with God, and there's a lot of things that we don't know, but definitely, there is a spiritual existence, or I don't know how to say that exactly, but and I think it's very common to pretend like that doesn't exist. But then if you think about for like a minute, like all of our ancestors viewed the world that way for up until like 10 minutes ago. That's how like everybody was like assumed there's a spiritual reality, there's a physical reality, you have a soul, your soul, good and evil is being acted upon. Like all of those are like old, not just Christian ideas, but like almost every major religion had those kind of concepts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, that's not what we're here to talk about though, but thank you for answering those questions. We met, you work with Advanced Orthopedics, and we were there. And I don't know why. It's really interesting to hear some of your backstory that we might share if you want to. But I started this podcast, and we've had filmmakers on, and we have musicians, and I kind of live in that world. But I'd always thought like I need to keep my eye out for some athletes because I would really like to get some athletes in here talking about pursuing excellence as an athlete. And obviously that's a big part of being an athlete. Yeah. And then I met you and you're telling me that you do triathlons and then you're getting ready to go to Spain. And I was like, well, let's sit down and talk about it because that sounds pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. It's a crazy.
Give me backstory on maybe we'll circle back to like maybe how it all began, but what are you doing now? Like where are you at? What's in the near future? What's going on?
I do sprint triathlon. So there's many different stages and worlds to triathlon. Triathlon has like several worlds, which is based on distances.
Okay.
So like I do sprints, which are draft legal age group.
How far is that?
So it's a half-mile swim, usually open water, and then we'll do a 12-mile bike and a 5K run.
Okay.
As quick as you can. And then, so it's a little more based on like power.
I'm assuming that's the fastest category.
It is the fastest category. And then you have Olympic distance, which is kind of grouped in with the sprinters. And then you have what's considered as mid-distance or half Ironmans, which is 70.3 miles. And then you have full Ironmans, which is 120.6 miles. Wow. So they get kind of long.
Did you start with sprint, or have you done other categories and this is just the one you like the best?
The longest I've done is Olympic. I love Olympic distance. I feel like I'm actually better at it, or I could be better at it, just because the swimming is my crutch and I have more real estate to like catch people on the bike and the run because I'm stronger biker. I'm an even stronger runner, which is the most case for triathletes. Most of us age groupers, we have learned how to swim as adults, most of us, not everyone.
Okay.
So the swimming is typically
So there's not a lot of high school swimmers who then go, I'm going to get into doing triathlons.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who do that, who grew up swimming and things like that, they end up going to like NCAA. They train for triathlon at a young age, and they end up taking like a NCAA pipeline where there's, scholarships and things like that. So, but age group
But a lot
athletes,
of runners and cyclists decide to go swim too.
Yeah, eventually. Sometimes.
So how did you start with one particular area, or did you just dive into, like, you just thought you'd do triathlon?
So my brother brought it up to me. He's like, I'm going to do this triathlon. I was like, well, that's cool. I ran track in college. So I was like, surely I can swim and bike too. And I was going through some stuff at the time that we'll kind of circle back to that later, I guess. But yeah, he said, let's do this triathlon together. And I was like, cool. And I did my first one and I almost drowned. It was awful. But I made it through it. And I was like, that was the funnest thing ever. I can't wait to do it again. And then I got pregnant with my son. I didn't do it for many years. And then I hit my mid-30s and had my second child and decided to pick it back up.
Because why not?
Because why
You're
not?
not busy. You got nothing going on.
Busy enough.
And
I got a coach.
5-hour runs every day. No big deal.
Yeah, I got a coach and I got real serious about it. And she was like, you're really good at this. And I was like, well, thanks. She's like, let's see where you can go. And I was like, okay. So now where I'm at right now is I have qualified for a Team USA age group in my age group, which will qualify me to go to Spain in October to race at a World Triathlon level.
That's awesome.
Yes. Very exciting.
And you qualified, you're like ranked 5 or something like that. Well, you had a high ranking, right?
My first year, last year, when I qualified in Dallas, Texas, I went to I went to Irving, Texas, for nationals, and you have to place in the top 10. I got 11th.
Oh.
And I was totally fine. I was like, I don't even care. That was the best race. I did so good for me. I PR'd that day for me. And I'd only been doing it for a year and a half at that point. So I was not expecting to earn a slot. Well, somebody else denied their spot or gave it up. So I got a roll down slot.
Nice.
My first year. So then I was like, well, that's cool, but I don't feel like I really earned it. You earned it, but they kind of gave it to me.
Yeah.
The first year. And I was like, man, that can't stand. So I came back even harder. Now this year I went to Omaha, Nebraska, just this past June, and I placed 5th overall.
Okay.
So I definitely earned it. We're going to go to Australia next year. Hopefully I'll do better then.
What do you hope to accomplish in Spain coming up in a couple of months?
Oh gosh. My first Worlds event, I think I'm going to just take pressure off myself and just say, hey, I want to be in the top 50%. Like, there's going to be thousands of athletes there representing all different countries.
How many people are you racing against?
Thousands.
Wow.
It's going to be huge. In my age group, probably hundreds.
Well, explain that too, because you were telling me, how triathlon is viewed on the world stage versus in America. We obviously have lots of sports to watch, and football and baseball and basketball and all that. But on the world stage, it's quite a bit different, right?
Yes. So, oh my gosh, if I get this wrong and there's triathletes out there watching this, don't come for me, okay? This is how I view it. There's like your Olympic people, right? They're best in the world. They compete all the time. They're like superhuman human beings, right? Then you go down to like a pro level and you have, your pro athletes that go and they compete in circuits, T100, all this different cool stuff, right? Then you go down to like age groupers, which you qualify to be on Team USA age group, top 20 for each age group. So 20 to 24, 25 to 29, 30 to 34. So I'm in the 30 to 34 range, which typically in your 30s in triathlon is like the most competitive age group. Typically. Don't come for me. I know there's so many people that comment on there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But no, so that's kind of how that tiers down.
Okay.
So you kind of have levels. So when I say Team USA, I'm not going to the Olympics. There are much faster fish in the pond. I'm just doing my best here.
You're doing much better than any of us could do. So, so you'll have. The thing is too, like, what are your thoughts on like in sports, in arts, in a lot of these high competition things, the influence of culture and how, you probably didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be a triathlete.
No,
you know what I mean?
Not at all.
And then you're going up against people in these other countries that they do view it that way. Like, what role does that play in your development, in your performance? Have you interacted with athletes that come from a background like that? Like, this is the world, like this is World Cup for them. This is huge.
Yeah. It's been a roller coaster. I think some people in triathlon, which I have not met, can be a little sabotagey. They'll sabotage you.
Tanya Harding kind of.
Yeah. I'm not that way. I think 99% of triathletes, especially age groupers, we are all out there we're racing against ourselves, and we are doing the best that we can for that day that we've prepared for. Now, when you get on a bigger level, when you get to nationals and to worlds, you get to be a little more selfish at that point. Yeah. And that's when you're like, you can't find your bike. That's on you. Yeah. Like,
I used to do marathons, and I was on a board for a marathon, and the people that are like, I know what you mean. Like, there's a group coming in at the beginning that they're in another headspace than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But the rest of us, they're the nicest people in the world. That's why I started working with the marathon, because I was like, runners are awesome.
Well, even before and after the races, like when you're in the race, you're maybe not best friends, unless you want to work together. Because sometimes you can. Sometimes you can work with people, especially in draft legal races. I met a girl in this last race I had at Nationals. Her name was Ev, which is so funny because my daughter's name is Ev. And I was like, oh, it's so easy to remember. It's my daughter's name. And we were going, and you can draft on each other in a sprint race. Okay, that's running behind or in front to biking. So you can like get up on their wheel, you can draft, you take their airspace.
Does that make a big difference though? Especially if it's like windy outside or there's some kind of
so much. And you can work together. So you pull each other like a little train. Yeah. And you basically like get up front, they'll pull for a minute and they'll help pull you and take some pressure off you, and then you hop up front and take a little pressure off that person. So you can work together.
You'll collaborate ahead of time and say, hey, look, let's help each other out when we get to that tough spot in the race.
And I looked behind me and she's catching up to me, and I said, hey, let's work together. And she goes, yeah. So we start pulling, and then of course like the last couple miles of this Nationals race, I'm like, I drop her. Really sweet. And I was like, okay, bye. And I luckily I had the power and I dropped her. I get to the run portion. I rack my bike. I'm throwing on my shoes, and here she comes, and poor thing, she can't find her bike. And I remembered her name. I go, Ev, over here. And she goes, oh my God, thank you. And my coach after the race, she was like, why'd you tell her where her bike was? And I'm like,
well, be a jerk.
You know me, coach. And she would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
She's, that's just, it's how you integrity, all of those things. And I was kind of regretting it immediately because she stayed on my hip the entire run. And we had a sprint to finish. She pushed me so hard and I beat her by 1 step.
Wow.
And I got 5th place and she was in my age group, but
you know what she thought?
She made me work for it.
She thought you beat her by 1 step. You know what I mean? Like,
She goes, I wouldn't even have been up there if you hadn't helped me find my shoes. Like,
yeah.
So awesome. It was really cool how that worked out. That was probably one of the funnest races I've ever done.
So I think as somebody who doesn't do triathlons, but it seems like you can't, it encompasses your life when you do this. Like it's not something that you go, marathon, you can train for a bit. And like they say something like, if you can run, I think it's like 18 miles or something, like you're good, you'll make it, but for what you're doing, how does it encompass your life? How have you incorporated being a mom, being, an athlete, being a wife? Where do you find the balance, or how do you find that balance to be able to do this in a meaningful, healthy way?
Oh, there's so much to that question. I got to break it down.
Break it down. I mean, that's what we're here to talk about.
I get that question all the time. How do you do triathlon and work a full-time job and take care of 2 young children, plus my husband? But the truth is, it's been my spiritual journey. I think going into this, what brought me into triathlon, I was going through a lot of postpartum depression after I had my daughter. And I just I've always been an athlete through my life. And I think when I became a mom, I lost that identity. And I was like, I'm just a mom now. Like, I don't know what to do. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like lost and couldn't get to that happy place and figure out what was good for me individually other than taking care of others. Mm-hmm. I love taking care of others. I do that with work. I do that as a mom. And I'm like, I need something for me. This just isn't healthy for me. Mm-hmm. So actually my husband, bless his heart, he's the one who went and started looking up coaches. We were in Colorado at the time. And he said, I found you this triathlon coach. I know you liked that triathlon that you did a few years back after you had, our son Blake. And he said, I found you this coach. We're going to go meet her tomorrow. And I was so mad. I was like, no, like that just adds so much more to my plate. I do not have time to train right now. Like I'm 3 months postpartum having a baby.
But he knew you needed something to push you.
He was like, you need this. Yeah. You're an athlete. You need something to push you. And I was like, fine. I met my coach and I was super standoffish. She even said, she was like, I thought I was nervous around you because you didn't talk much. And I was like, because I instantly loved you. I knew I was going to love it so much. And I was so afraid to take that leap and add to my plate. And I knew that I was going to love it. And I was like, dang it. Why now? That was such a hard decision for me at the time. And I was like, okay, God, here we go. And I kind of just jumped in there and I had no races planned. I trained for probably 8 or 9 months. And my coach put this in my ear and she's like, Jesi, I don't think you understand. You're going to be really good at this. You have the data, and she just kind of put in this little bugs in my ear. She's like, I wouldn't tell you these things if I didn't truly believe that you could do these things. And I was like, okay. And then she put a Facebook post on our group and she said, who wants to go to Bermuda? And I was like, can't go to Bermuda. That's way too far. And I talked to my husband about it and I was like, hey, what do you think about Bermuda? And he was like, what? And I was like, well, coach said you wanted me to do this. So I played that little card and, and long story short, I went to Bermuda and I failed hard.
Oh, wow.
I almost drowned, literally. I jumped into a shipping lane in the ocean, started this 800-meter swim, and I got a quarter of the way out there, and I panicked hard. And I took a wave to the face, and I swallowed so much salt water, and I started vomiting in the water.
Oh, my gosh.
And all I remember was looking up and just being like, I didn't know which way it was up, and so I started panicking. And so when I found the surface, I called for help, and as soon as I touched the kayak, I was DNF'd. And did not finish. But they let me finish the course. They let me finish the bike and the run. I cried my eyes out after that race for like a solid 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're on vacation. It happened. You came here. Because I don't know. I feel like I had so much more expectation for myself. And I got that humble pie so fast. But I don't know why, but the next day I just felt this whole new person emerge. And it was like, you're going to do this. And you're going to do it better next time. So then my next race was nationals in Irving, Texas. And I cried. I got into the water and I got right back out. And I came to my coach and I started bawling. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do this. She's like, well, you did all this training. You're going to start. And I was like, dang it. Again, just fear, just immediate fear came over me. And I was like, God, why are you wanting me to do this? Why do you keep pushing me? Because I just felt this like gut feeling of, you have to do this. Trust me, it's going to be worth it. So I did it. But I stopped at probably like 4 kayaks at that race. But in a nationals race, you can stop as long as you're not making forward progress. So I stopped a couple of times, caught my breath, stopped panicking, pulled myself back together, got around. And as soon as I came out of the water, I had this whole new person come out of me all over again, but in such a like more positive way.
Because you knew you could do it.
Yeah. I had overcome that fear. And I was just like, let's go. And, I just had the best bike in the run of my life after that. And of course, I didn't get the immediate slot. And I didn't even care. I was so happy that I finished that race and I got through that water. And I was like, I'm the best person that ever lived. I just felt so good. And now when I get in the water, I always think back.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, where are you at with that water experience now compared to Bermuda?
So much more confidence. So much more. Like,
what do you think was going on? Like, Bermuda makes sense to me. Like, you're caught off guard. But then do you think you developed even just an irrational fear of it?
Traumatized myself.
Yeah.
I probably should have started a little. Maybe in the baby pond first.
The kiddie pool before we go to the deep end. Maybe in the kiddie pool
first. But I hadn't had many opportunities to do open water swimming. That's just not something you get to do here in Oklahoma.
I was going to say, in Oklahoma, especially because, there's not a lot of opportunity.
I'd say my journey started out with a lot of
You train in pool, I'm assuming,
failure.
most of the time, right?
Oh, yeah. I train in the pool all the time.
So,
and I was feeling real good in the pool. I was like, I got this.
That's like running a treadmill versus actually getting out on an open course somewhere. And it's not the same thing.
It's like times a billion. It's just a whole new ballgame. Sighting and
no offense to people who like to run on the treadmill or go to the pool. It's not the same.
Still run on your treadmill. It's okay.
Yes. So I know that when we first met, you've talked a lot about how your spirituality has played a role in being an athlete and even just being here today. I don't think we were recording at that time, were you? Do you want to share that story about that you were praying about before we actually met, about telling your story?
Yeah, I was hoping, or I guess I was a little giddy because I just got my new Team USA kit in and it has my name on it, and I was like feeling all good, and I was like, maybe they'll want to use me as an athlete in the commercial. Like, that would be cool. But selfishly, I was like, that'd be cool. But then the other side of me was like, well, if it's meant to be, then whatever. So I was feeling kind of bummed because they were like, nah, we don't need that. And I was like, fine. And
I didn't want it anyway.
Yeah, fine. No, that was totally fine. Not the direction they wanted to go. Didn't hurt my feelings, but I was like a little bit bummed. And then I was like just praying about it, and I was like, God, okay, how am I supposed to share your story through athletics, through triathlon? Because you don't just cross a finish line and like, God did this. Like, it's how do you spread that message? And I'm just praying that prayer, saying, how do I spread that message? How do I let people know how amazing this journey has been for me? And the next day I met you and you're like, hey, come on my podcast, Bound for Glory.
I don't know you, you know me. Let's go talk about
let's go talk about triathlon and share your story. And I was like, okay, message received. Thanks, God.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of cool how it was like a divine appointment.
Well, and I love that. I mean, I like to help people in general, but it's really cool to like, just as a Christian, to like have moments where it's like we just get the opportunity to be a vessel. We get the opportunity to be like, a microphone, like, hey, tell your story, it'll be there forever,
Yeah.
and then just even to have something like that, like, I didn't know you, I'm just like looking for athletes, and it had been on my mind, hey, if I've, think of some athletes in the near future to have them on the podcast, just because I wanted to address that side of pursuit of excellence is through athletics. And, all of my friends I went to OU with, I don't even know where they live now. So, so anyway, that's a cool story. But what do you think about that as far as how do you think God is working through you as an athlete? Like, what do you think, maybe you speaking to other athletes, what role does spirituality play in being a great athlete and pursuing excellence in whatever sport it is that you're doing?
Oh, it's changed every aspect of my life. Like, coming back to like how you said how I balance everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Those decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis. I look at my calendar the day before, the week before, and I look at my training schedule, and I look at the kids' schedule. I look at parent-teacher conferences and doctor's appointments and recovery and all of these things that need to be done. And I'm like, okay, God, how are we going to work this out this week?
Mm-hmm.
My husband, he started training with me. He quit drinking alcohol. Like, not that it was like a big problem, but it was just something that wasn't benefiting our lives. And then I followed suit shortly after. I was like, hey, I'm kind of jealous of that. You look like you're having a lot of fun over there,
No hangovers, getting up for those early runs.
Yeah, getting up early, all the things. So
in.
It's just one, making dedication. To be successful in any sport or do in anything, not just sports, but in your career, in life in general, you have to make devoted, dedicated, good decisions on a day-to-day basis. And you have to follow things that you're passionate about. And I feel like if you're not passionate about something, you're not happy about something, or if you're too comfortable, because I think you're right, a lot of people like to sit in this little box, and they like to be in their lane and be comfortable. And I think that's fine for a lot of people. But if you're not one of those people and you're telling yourself, I want to be in I think I should be here because that's what so-and-so is doing, but I really have this passion for this over here.
Mm-hmm.
And you let it sit there, you're missing out on your blessings.
You're
missing out on
your
those
heart
things
for a reason.
that God wants for you. And it's crazy how things have come about in my life. Like, my sponsorship was like just the craziest thing. I called my coach and I started bawling. I was like, you're not going to believe what happened. Because people, age groupers like me, don't typically get sponsorships. That's usually for like pro athletes, things that, and I think some people do, I was just very fortunate to have an amazing job and company to work for that, decided to back me a little bit, in what I'm doing. And
what does that take for people that are interested in getting into that? Like, I mean, it sounds expensive, going to Bermuda, Well,
that was part of it. Because when I took my slot to Team USA, I called my husband, and my coach had said, no, this is going to cost some money when you take the slot. You're going to pay for a kit, and then you got to pay to get to Spain. You got to pay for your race entry fees. You got to pay the insurance, and then, flights, all of these things. Like, one race for triathlon can cost well over $1,000, and that's without travel and things like that.
Yes.
And then your equipment, your bike, your running shoes on a regular basis. All
you're probably
of these
looking
things.
at least $10,000 for equipment, right? Like bike, shoes. Like, what do you?
Yeah,
it's a lot.
My bike is close to that.
You got a good bike. You got a good bike.
I do have.
I don't know anything about bikes. I just know it's an expensive.
It is. It's a very expensive endeavor, and I was, again, praying about it. I went home. I took the slot. It was probably just a couple months after I had qualified, got the roll down slot. And I was like, God, I know I've passed through these fears and I've overcome some things. But if you want me to keep going down this road, I need you to open some doors financially. Because I don't know how I'm going to get to Spain. I don't want to put that pressure on my husband. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask for. That's a lot to support in your wife, And 2 weeks later, through word of mouth, it got to our management team and doctors around that, oh, hey, Jesi qualified for Team USA. And they just came down and said, hey, we want to sponsor you. And I was like,
that's awesome.
What? How in the world? That I didn't ask for it. I didn't go, which that's the crazy part about it is I think people like me who do have sponsorships, they have to go find those and they have to search really diligently and really hard to make those things happen. That just happened for me. And I have to shout it from the rooftops. Like, that's
amazing.
You know, that's the crazy thing.
I've done a little bit of work with your company, and the little that I have, they're awesome. Everybody that I've interacted with them has been just on the ball, but also just like super great to work with and super nice. And I think
we have an amazing team. Our doctors are.
That's just a blessing to have. It's a blessing to know that there are good companies out there, but then also for all the people working with you guys. I mean, it's awesome that they, you know, I'm sure there's lots of other ways too with other employees that they do things that are, you know, more than just a place to work.
Oh yeah, you know? For sure. Yeah. But it's kind of crazy how we've balanced it all out and like just how it's worked out. And it's really cool because my kids get to see me, and my son, he calls me Super Cat Speed on race day. He goes, Mom, you're going to do a Super Cat Speed, like off PJ Masks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And he shoots me with it with webs. He's like,
you know what she's talking about, right? His little brother we'd go to the zoo and there's a door that was always heavy to push, and he'd run up and he'd go, Super Gecko Muscles, and push as far as he can.
There we go.
Yeah.
So he'll run by me on race day and he goes, Mom, Super Cat Speed. And he like shoots me with it like Spider-Man, which is kind of funny to see.
What, as a mom, like, I don't know if your parents were athletes, but what do you think effect that's having on your children watching you do something amazing, you know?
Oh, it's crazy. My son was running from his teacher the other day, and they had to bring 2 other teachers in to corral him because they couldn't catch him. You laugh, but I got a call from the teachers and they were not happy.
We couldn't catch him. I know. He's like his mom, you know?
Yeah, he was like scaling the tables, like jumping over them like hurdles. He was parkouring over the tables, and they couldn't catch him. And they were like, we had to bring 2 teachers in to catch your son. And I was like, I'm so sorry. We do a lot of racing.
But then you're also like, I'm also kind of proud.
I was really proud. Yeah, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like,
but at least he's quick.
At least he's fast. So little things like that, I think, have been playing a huge role. My nephew, he just made a decision to get saved and like really immerse himself in his new spiritual self and like find his way. And he loves track and field. And I swear he's been calling me every other day. And he's like, Jesi, what do I need to do here? You know, and it's really cool that I've just seen it kind of like positivity and good decisions and dedication and just all of these things just kind of seep into the people around me, which has been really, really cool to see.
I think that's awesome. Because I think too, like, especially in America, we have this idea that like we're individuals, everybody's individual, which you are to a degree, but we also don't realize how, you know, everything we do affects other people, and you're connected to your family and your friends and all these people. And the decisions that you make and the things that you do day to day, whether you like it or not, I think do affect the rest of the world. And I think that a lot of what like Bound for Glory, what that means and what that has meant to me anyway, is like the power of being on a positive trajectory. And that's kind of what I've always just encouraged anyone, whether it's creative works or whatever. It's like you don't realize how quickly you can go from being in a place that you really don't like being at to a place that you're feeling comfortable at, to a place that you're like really excited about. I'm going to Spain, I'm doing this. But it's easy to look at that and think you want to leapfrog to like the end. You don't realize like, no, it's like
all
step.
Step.
And the nice thing is, how do you eat an elephant? Just one bite at a time, you know? And so what advice would you give to, it doesn't necessarily have to be athletics. I guess athletics would be part of it, but somebody who's wanting to eat an elephant, somebody who has some sort of they want to do something great. Maybe they're not there now. Maybe they're at that place where you were when your husband first pushed you to say, get this coach. What advice would you give them? What should they be thinking? What should they be, who should they be listening to maybe?
I have a great quote for this.
Okay.
My husband told me, ships are safest at harbor, but that's not where they belong. And I tell myself that A lot.
Do you know who quote?
I'm not sure. Oh, I need to look that up.
We'll look that up.
Ships are safe at harbor, but that's not where they're meant to be. Like, there's going to be storms. You're not going to feel motivated most days. Things come up. Sometimes I have to miss training. It happens. Happened yesterday. But you can't beat yourself up over those what ifs and could haves and should haves and this and that. It is day by day making the right decisions and not giving yourself excuses, holding yourself accountable. And I think listening to that inner voice and saying that's leading you during those paths and saying, no, that door is not for you. Your door's over here. Or your lane is over here. I think listening to that inner voice and like having it guide you, that's what I do, is just kind of follow that inner guiding path. And I pray about it.
And it sounds like also, in your case, you seem very open to wherever God is leading you. Like when he opens the door,
and like not being afraid to do that. Because for me, the whole first part of my journey was fear and failure. And it just kind of, I had to overcome those things.
Good luck in Spain.
Thank you.
Do you have, outside of the triathlon experience, I don't know, where are you going to Madrid?
It's next to, I think, I may pronounce it wrong, Malaga, Torremolinos.
Okay. Do you have travel plans after you win to go? And
I don't think I'm going to win this one, and that's just me being real. But no, I'm very excited. I'm very nervous. I just want to go celebrate all this hard work.
Husband going with you? Any other family?
Husband's going, leaving the kids. I think we'll take the kids to Worlds next year, but my first Worlds event, I really want to.
Well, yours are pretty young still too. Yeah.
Focused.
Yeah. You want to take them when they can really experience it.
Yeah. I think next year will be better. Australia.
Spain is in October?
Spain is this October.
Okay.
Next October we'll go to.
Is that something, I'm assuming it'll be online, people could watch? Where do they go to do that?
It'll be on a World Triathlon circuit.
Okay.
It's not like streamed by Peacock and stuff like that. It kind of comes out on their website.
Do you get opportunities through the team to, what else do you get to do with them? I mean, is it press opportunities or even just like...
No, nothing like that. It's just like we do a parade of nations when we get there, and we all have like a parade kit that we have to wear and, take pictures, stuff like that as a team. And then on race day, you wear your uniform. You're not allowed to wear your own personalized gear. You have to wear the Team USA stuff. But you basically just get to compete at Worlds on a world stage.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But as far as I know, like other stuff, not really, unless you do it yourself.
Is there anything that you thought you wanted to share on this podcast that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share?
I can't think of anything. I do have a funny story about my husband, though, totally away from triathlon.
Let's hear it.
So it came into my mind because we were talking about you don't have to be an athlete to like go places, all this stuff. So I had hurt my back like way back in the day. This was, I was young 20s, and we were in the gym lifting, and I went up in weight too fast, hurt my back. And I was working at Harley Davidson at the time in their clothing department. And my husband was like, I love you, but I can't marry you if you're not going to want to do anything with your life. It was like a cold hard truth moment. We'd been together for a couple of years and we weren't married yet, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that was rough, but okay.
He sounds pretty awesome.
And he took this Tulsa Tech book and he sat it in front of me. He said, choose something you want to do with your life. And I was like, oh, that hurts. And
so is that how you got into radio?
That's how I got into radiology.
Radiology.
Just through this book, and I looked through it and I was like, oh, I don't look too bad. Let's try that. And I applied, got into school the next year. I quit my job. He supported me through x-ray school. And then the month after I graduated x-ray school, we went and got married in Mexico.
Nice.
But he's just that guy that has pushed me through everything. And he got me the coach, and he watches the kid. That he's how I balance everything out.
It says a lot about him, but also about your relationship. I don't know him, but I can tell. I mean, just that that he knows you and he knew you enough. And you really, I think every great artist, like my wife is that way with me. Like she just knows me. And like you need somebody, if you're going to do something crazy, if you're going to do something out of the box, you can never do it by yourself. And you having that, whether it's a family member or a spouse, but you need somebody that is not going to blow sunshine up your ass, and somebody that's going to tell you the truth, because the truth, everyone loves you. Everyone's going to say, all your friends, they're going to say everything you do is great.
They'll give me the tough love when I need it.
You need somebody that can push you when you need it, but also somebody that's like, trust me, this is the way you need. This is what you need to do.
Yes.
And it'd be hard to argue that he wasn't right at this point. So that's awesome.
It's set me on the path. So it's crazy that it's all kind of worked out the way it has.
Well, awesome. Jesi, thank you for coming on the podcast, and maybe come back again after you've done some more races and we'll talk more about pursuing excellence.
When I win a national championship, cool.
We'll do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Like the world is confused by the guy